but I don't go on Zoom or YouTube until I absolutely have to. Okay, so we just I don't think it's good for you to be sitting around. Ms. Housefield, we're here on gambling.
That is correct, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. And so we're on the record in docket 22-01619. It's people of the state of Michigan versus Kelly M. Gamblin. Will the parties please introduce themselves for the record?
Thank you. Good morning. Erin Housefield on behalf of the people.
Good morning, Your Honor. John Toivin on behalf of Kelly Gamblin, who is standing to my right.
And ma'am, you are Kelly Gamblin?
Yes, sir.
All right. This is the time set for preliminary examination today. Ms. Housefield, how are we proceeding?
Thank you, Your Honor. It's my understanding that defendant wishes to waive her right unconditionally to have the preliminary examination. The people also unconditionally waive their right to hold the preliminary examination and ask that the matter be bound over to the circuit court on the complaint as filed. The offer on this matter, Ms. Gamblin has this file before Your Honor, as well as a 3-count felony out of 55th, Your Honor, for a CCW, possession of meth, and possession of cocaine less than 25. The offer is that between the two files, Ms. Gamblin will plead to 1 count of the delivery, manufacture of methamphetamine with a forfeiture of the gun in the 55th case. And that with that plea, Your Honor, the people would dismiss the balance of the charges. That offer will remain open at circuit court.
I'm just writing that up for this file. All right, Mr. Toivonen. I'll restate it for the record, and then you can indicate if that's your understanding. And Ms. Gamblin, then I'll ask you about some of your rights concerning your waiver day. Okay. My understanding is that there's actually this file, and there's another file regarding 3 counts in 55th District Court. And the outstanding offer right now is the defendant is to plead to 1 count of delivery in one of these files, and then forfeit the gun in the other 55th file, with all other counts to be dismissed.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Ma'am, is that your understanding of the plea agreement or negotiations as they continue?
That's what I heard. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Mr. Toivonen, can I inquire of your client concerning the waiver?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. You understand, ma'am, you have a right to waive this preliminary examination. So you've heard the assistant prosecutor also say they have a right to have a preliminary examination. You have a right to have a preliminary examination. And at a preliminary examination, which is why we're here today, the people would have to prove by probable cause evidence that an actual crime was committed in this file, and then the identity of the person who committed that crime. The allegation is that you would be that person. They call witnesses, and then you'd have the chance to contest that preliminary examination. Your attorney, Mr. Toivonen, would be here to cross-examine the witnesses and to contest any charges. Do you understand that if you waive your right to preliminary examination here in district court, that you won't be having that hearing today? All right. So with the understanding that anything other than the plea agreement and negotiations are to continue, right? There's an offer on the table that's going to continue in circuit court, but your time here in district court is done. This all goes to the circuit court, the trial court, and you're doing so knowingly, voluntarily, and intelligently. You're waiving your right to a preliminary examination today. Okay. Other than the plea agreement that's been talked about, there have been no threats, coercions, or duress in waiving your right today. All right, thank you. Any questions, Ms. Housefield, on the waiver?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Anything, Mr. Toivonen?
I believe my client understands her rights, Your Honor.
Perfect. I find the waiver to be freely, understandingly, and voluntarily given. We've talked about the plea agreement. The prosecutor also waives their right to a preliminary examination. I will not give you a date in circuit court since giving you, that's up to change, so that doesn't make any sense. So stay in contact with your attorney, Mr. DeVoynen, and he will give you the following date in circuit court, all right? Anything else, Ms. Housefield? I have bond set at 2,500 PR.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, anything else, Mr. DeVoynen?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. It's good to see you, Mr. DeVoynen. All right, we have two files here, and we'll start with the 21 file. So the older file, this is docket 21-02844. People of the state of Michigan versus Nicholas Jetton. Will the parties please introduce themselves for the record?
Thank you, Honor. Aaron Housefield on behalf of the people.
Good morning, Your Honor. Assistant Public Defender Stephen Feigelson, appearing on behalf of Mr. Is it Jeton? Jeton.
Jeton. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you are Nicholas Jeton? All right. Ms. Housefield, on this file, this is set for prelim today. How are we proceeding?
Thank you, Honor. It is my understanding that defendant wishes to waive his right unconditionally to hold the preliminary examination. The people would also unconditionally waive their right to hold the preliminary examination and ask that the matter be bound over to the circuit court on the complaint as filed. There is no specific offer to state at this time. The negotiations will continue at circuit.
Your Honor, that is accurate. We are, have several matters pending in front of Judge Jamo. I think we are working on getting this young man into the drug court and before the district court, so.
All right. And I'm assuming that all those files will go to Judge Jamo and there'll be some type of global resolution.
Probably.
All right. All right, Mr. Feigelson, may I inquire of your client?
You may, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Jeton, you understand you have a right to a preliminary examination in this case today. Is that you gotta say yes, sir. Okay, thank you. The preliminary examination is a hearing in which it's set and the prosecutor bring their witnesses and they have to prove that there's probable cause that a crime's been committed and probable cause of the person who committed that crime. That would be you, sir, in this file, okay? And you'd be represented by counsel during that hearing. And of course, Mr. Feigelson could cross-examine any witnesses and could contest those charges. Do you understand that, sir?
Yes.
All right. If you don't have that prelim today and you waive that right, then this all goes to district court and this file goes to district court. And it's my understanding that negotiations will continue. There'll be some type of global resolution, but you won't come back to district court. You'll waive today and go to circuit court for the trial. Do you understand that, sir? Okay. We've talked about a plea agreement, but they're really what it is negotiations to continue to join this file with those other files. Do you understand that? All right. Anything concerning so today, is it your intent to waive your right to a preliminary examination in this district court? All right. Anything on the factual basis or the waiver from the people?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Anything from the defense?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right. I find the waiver to be done freely, understandingly, and voluntarily. We've talked about negotiations to continue. Prosecutor also waives her right. I will not give you a date here in district court because they'll give you a date in circuit court. So whatever date I give you, they'll change, and I don't want to confuse that. So just keep in contact with Mr. Feigelson concerning this matter, and there'll be a new date for arraignment in circuit court. All right, sir? Okay. So that's all in the record in this file, and then we have a second file, and we'll do the same thing in that file, just to treat them differently. So that's all on the record in 02844. Now we're on the record in 22-01130. Will the parties please introduce themselves for the record?
Thank you, Your Honor. Aaron Housefield on behalf of the people.
Good morning again, Your Honor. Assistant Public Defender Stephen Feigelson, appearing on behalf of Mr. Jeton, who's standing to my right for this matter today.
And sir, you are Nicholas Jeton, right? Okay. Ms. Housefield, this is the time set for preliminary examination. How are we proceeding today?
Thank you, Your Honor. It's my understanding that defendant wishes to unconditionally waive his right to the preliminary examination. The people also unconditionally waive their right to hold the preliminary examination and ask that the matter be bound over to the circuit court on the complaint as filed. There is no specific offer at this time to state, but negotiations will continue at circuit court.
Mr. Feigelson?
Your Honor, that's an accurate statement. We wish to continue negotiations up in circuit court with several matters pending before Judge Jamo. We are looking at global resolution, the possibility of Mr. Jeton going into the drug court before the district court.
All right. May I inquire of your client?
May, Your Honor.
All right. So similarly, Mr. Jeton, you know you have a right to a preliminary examination today on this file. And similarly, as I indicated before, a preliminary examination is a probable cause hearing in which the people would have to prove by probable cause evidence that this probably happened, probable cause, and that you are probably the person identified in the file who did it. Mr. Feigelson, of course, is appointed to represent you. He would contest any witnesses that are brought against you, cross-examine those charges, cross-examine, and make sure that there's probable cause evidence that this crime was committed. Do you understand that, sir? All right. If you waive your right to a preliminary examination today, then you'll waive your right to any of that happening. This case will go up to circuit court, where it will follow the previous case and some other cases, and then there'll be a resolution. Negotiations are to continue on this case. Do you understand that, sir? Is it your intent today to waive your right to a preliminary examination today? All right. Any question as to the waiver, Ms. Houseville?
No, thank you.
Anything, Mr. Feigelson?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right. I find the waiver to be freely, understandingly, and voluntarily given. We've discussed the negotiations are to continue. The prosecutor also waives their right. I will not give you a date today in this courtroom. Keep in contact with Mr. Feigelson, and it'll go to circuit court, and he'll give you the next date that you're to appear in circuit court. You understand that? All right. I will give both, and I will mark, so the bind over is today's date, and then I'll have your client sign that on both files. So, Mr. Hannah, if you could have I'll have them sign the bind over on both files. This file 22-01130. Mr. Shatan, good luck to you, okay? All right, thank you. in docket 19-03162. That's people of the state of Michigan versus Tyrone Brown. Will the parties please introduce themselves for the record?
Thank you, Your Honor. Aaron Housefield on behalf of the people.
Matthew Samuels on behalf of Tyrone Brown, who is present to my right.
Sir, you are Tyrone Brown?
Correct, sir.
Okay. This is the time set for preliminary examination today. How are we proceeding?
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, the people have made an offer, and it's my understanding that defendant wishes to accept that offer. And that is to plead guilty to an added count 4 of larceny, 200 to 1,000, pursuant to 750.3564A. The maximum penalty on that is 1 year and/or $1,000. In consideration for that plea, Your Honor, the people move to dismiss counts 1, 2, and 3. There is an agreement between the parties that defendant will pay restitution in an amount to be determined. And there's a sentencing agreement, Your Honor, for time served pursuant to People versus Killebrew.
Is that your understanding, Mr. Samuel?
Not entirely. There's one thing missing from that, and I did not catch that off the record.
Okay.
The 54B5.
There is, Your Honor, he has a case pending at 54B, case number 19-1048 FY. That matter will be dismissed following today's plea. I can place that as part of this record.
Would be to be dismissed. So let me make sure I've got that number. It's pending file 19-1048.
Yes, Your Honor,
Okay.
FY.
Okay. And 54B is to be dismissed as part of this plea agreement.
Correct, Your Honor, and I had indicated to Mr. Samuels, but I will state for the record, I will file a nollie and let Mr. Samuels know in that matter after today's plea.
All right, Mr. Samuels, I'm going to read as my understanding of the offer and what's going to happen today, and then let me know if I've got everything, and then I'll need to inquire of your client. It's my understanding that the people are going to add account 4 of is it larceny or embezzlement?
Larceny, please, Your
Okay.
Honor.
Of larceny of 200 to 1,000 pursuant to 750.3564A. The possible penalties for that 1 year misdemeanor are 1 year and/or $1,000 or 3 times the value of what was stolen. There's a killebrew of time served. There's also an agreement that counts 1, 2, and 3 are to be dismissed in this file, and a pending file in 54B 19-11048 FY are also to be dismissed as part of this plea agreement. And then restitution we'll talk about is to be determined.
Correct. And we will be setting it for August 22nd at 8:30 for restitution.
Correct. Mr. Brown, do you understand that those are the negotiations in regards to the plea today?
Yes, sir.
All right. Counsel, may I inquire of your client?
Sure, Your Honor. I'm going to use the factual basis towards the original count 1.
Okay. All right. So
Um,
I'll go ahead and make an inquiry of it. Make inquiry. So you understand, sir, that the misdemeanor that we're talking about, larceny between 200 to 1,000, is 750.3564A, and it has a possibility of having 1 year incarceration and/or $1,000 or 3 times that value. You understand that? All right. And you understand that you've negotiated through your counsel that the agreement is that killebrew is with no additional time served. You understand that? All right. You understand that if you give up the right to trial in this matter, you're giving up the following rights. You have the right to a trial in this matter. You have the right to have witnesses called in your defense. You have the right to cross-examine all witnesses. You have the right to testify to remain silent without any inference from that silence being against you. You have the right to the presumption of innocence, and you have the right to have the prosecution prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. You understand that? You, of course, would have Mr. Samuel here in regards to contesting these charges and cross-examining any witnesses. I placed the plea agreement on the record. Is it your intent today to waive those rights to trial and to plead guilty today? Okay. And you're pleading guilty today because you are guilty. Is that correct? Is that a yes? Okay, thank you. We'll use a factual basis as to count one of the complaint. No, raise your right hand. Do you have this? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to bring your attention back to May 11th, 2018 at 3120 Trappers Cove in apartment 3B. Okay. Do you remember that date and that address? All right. And in count one, it says it indicates that you did use a financial transaction device, knowing the device to have been obtained or held under circumstances prescribed under MCL 750. Why don't you tell me what happened here?
Someone, I don't remember that address. Someone, I did get a card and want to go use it.
Okay.
And I think it definitely came from that area for sure.
Okay, it came from that area and you had it on that day.
Yes.
Okay. And you know the card wasn't yours. And then you used it knowing the card wasn't yours. All right. So I believe that's an accurate factual basis for count one. This happened in the city of Lansing, state of Ingham, city of Lansing, Ingham County, state of Michigan. All right. Anything as to the factual basis, Ms. Housefield?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Anything, Mr. Samuel?
Just one quick question. And you did not have consent from the person who legally had the card.
Okay, so you did not have consent to use the card. Okay, thank you. With that understanding, is the factual basis for the lower misdemeanor of 750-356 larceny 200 to 1,000. Mr. Samuel, do you believe that's been met?
I believe so.
All right. I believe that the factual basis has been made in regards to count one, so we'll accept it as to count four for larceny 200 to 1,000 pursuant to 750-356-3564A. I find the plea to be accepted as understanding, voluntary, and accurate. I'm going to go to immediate sentencing in this file without objection, and then we'll, from my understanding, that's what we're doing here. And then we will set it for sentencing in regards to restitution. Is that fair, Ms. Housefield?
Certainly, Your Honor, thank you.
And Mr. Samuel?
Sure, Your Honor.
All
Thank
right.
you.
That's my understanding, sir, is that there's no objection to me going to as far as part of this sentence that you'll be sentenced to time served. All right. And that counts 1, 2, and 3 are to be dismissed. All right, in this file, and that there's a pending file in 54B. And I'll indicate that for the record, that's 19-11048FY will also be dismissed as part of this plea agreement. Now, it's my understanding that restitution has some variables to it because there's multiple defendants, and therefore restitution is going to be determined by the prosecutor brought to the court as part of the sentence, okay? And that sentence date will be August 22nd at 8:30, all right, sir? Your counsel's indicated that you've got a couple of probation holes, or you've got a couple of holes in other counties, Eaton and Isabella. So if your counsel contacts us and you're not out, then we will writ you out of where you need to be for here, okay? But if you are out, then August 22nd is your date.
Okay.
And you keep in contact with Mr. Samuel, he'll make sure you get here, okay? All right? Anything else for the record in 1903162? Ms. Housefield?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Anything, Mr. Samuel?
Covered it all very good, Your Honor.
It's
Thank
a
you.
complicated misdemeanor plea. All right, Mr. Brown. So the date for you to remember is August 22nd at 8:30, okay? All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Good luck to you, okay? Okay.